Welcome back to day 19 of the Seance at the Whitney. The presence of your company is requested at a convening of spirits. We do this every night. We spend about an hour every night playing a really fun game, listening to some amazing authors read, and, generally being lunatics. Join the rebel. It'll be fun. This is our schedule. We tend to keep it real close to about an hour. Sometimes we're in a couple minutes over, but it's all fun. So you never know. And, we spin the wheel at the end of the night. So you want to stay for the whole thing so you can see if you won books. That's like the most important part, right? Well, almost the most important part. The Seance at the Whitney is an interactive indie author virtual book festival featuring author readings, in an interactive improv mystery game, and book giveaways. We have an astounding roster of authors. If you don't know them already, go back and watch the replays, learn about them, learn about their work, go buy it, send books to your friends written by these authors. Keep in mind, many of these authors write more than what they're sharing with us on the festival. So check out their entire catalogs because you never know. Jamie Samlin, for instance, tonight, he is reading from his book, Arcanum. He has like 187 books. So go check out his catalog. Also, Mary Beth McGee is another one of those super prolific writers. She has a whole slew of books you want to learn about. Tonight, she's going to be reading from Ambush at the Arboretum. And tonight, that's exactly where we're going to begin with the author readings. So, Mr. Jamie Samlin, are you ready, sir?
I am ready.
Awesome. Please take the microphone and read aloud.
All right. So what I'll be reading tonight is kind of deep into Arcanum, so a little bit of the setup. Elvan has spent the last 2 years trying to learn why his mother was very suddenly exiled, and in the hopes of that he can bring her back home. He escalates his investigation and meets Drace. Romance blooms for the briefest of moments, but then they're thrown into a shrinking world of dying magic. Time is running out for them to escape. All right. Whether or not we get out of here, Drace whispered, sending a tickle down Elvan's spine. And whatever happens after we get out, I'm glad we're together. Could you tell me one of your Nana stories about the lore keepers? A story right now? Sure. The Dreamer. Drace cleared his throat. There was this boy, the son of a lighthouse keeper, who only had a dozen books in his house. He read them each a dozen times, then a dozen more, until he could recite them from memory. He begged for a new book, but his father couldn't afford them. One night, the boy went to sleep and woke up on a balcony overlooking a library that stretched to the horizon. He saw a score of people in red and purple below, lore keepers, moving between thousands of books. The boy ran down the spiral staircase to the library's main level, where a woman with dark skin and kind blue eyes stopped him. Have you come to read a book? She asked him. Yes, the boy yelled, but this is just a dream. Can I come here for real? The woman smiled and nodded. You may visit here every night when you sleep, and if you can read every book here, I'll bring you here when you're awake. The boy agreed, eager to pick up the closest tome, eager to read it all, so he could visit the library in his waking world. He read about distant worlds and people, science and magic, concepts so far beyond what he could ever imagine as a lighthouse keeper's son. He read all night, every night, for 90 years. When he lay on his deathbed, surrounded by his children and great-grandchildren, he cried, knowing he would never get to see that library with his own eyes, as he could never finish a task that was eternal. Elvin waited for the story to continue, but when Drace remained quiet, he shuffled to face the other. That's it? He spent his life wanting to do something, but never achieved it? What didn't he achieve? He wanted to read, and he did. The morals that he was so focused on the end goal, he didn't realize that the journey fulfilled it. That's Elvan chewed his cheek. Embarrassed, he overlooked the simple purpose of the story. Focus on the present. Be thankful for what you have, and not upset about what you lack. Thank you. At some point in Drace's tale, the sky shed the inky, starless veil as rays of orange and gold cut across, leaving a cloudless blue. Drace blew out a long breath while he stared at the horizon. That's definitely nearer. This world is shrinking. We have to find my mother quickly. Right. The magic of this place is broken and fading quickly. They didn't travel much further before the sand gave way to wide, flat stones. Drace squinted into the distance along the gently curving beach. Another river, he said, and hastened their pace. Within minutes, they stood at the mouth of the narrow, fast-moving river across the rocks. No animal tracks, Drace commented, at least not right here. I'll keep an eye out for them, but I guess we follow this? Go all the way up to the source this time? Elva nodded his agreement, but something in Drace's statement struck him. I haven't heard any birds for a day. No insects either. This place is dying. Drace gave him a shrug and look that showed that he was thinking the same thing before they trudged forward, careful not to slip on the loose rocks. The river meandered through the trees, carving a winding path, and the current increased as the banks came nearer, and they rested from the effort of balancing while walking on the gentle incline over loose ground. As Elvon worried about how near they were to dusk, the trees opened to a wide lake. The river spilled over a waterfall on the far side, 100 feet away, cascading a torrent of water. Elvon squinted across the mostly still lake. Is that an island at the bottom of the waterfall? With a little hut, it looks like. Drace nodded. Let's go. They circled to the left, and Drace quickened his steps after a few paces. There's smoke. Someone's there. Even unencumbered, Elvon struggled to keep up. His heart leapt in his throat, fighting off how sure he was to find his mother in that hut, sitting in front of a fire, reading a book. As he neared the hut, he noted a tree growing through the thatched roof and a pile of river rocks pasted together with mud that made up the walls. The hut was centered on an island 10 feet from the shore. More piles of rocks filled the island, leaving a narrow path to what might pass as a front door. An elderly woman stepped from the hut, wrapped in what was once a fine gold dress 15 years ago, before it was patched and mended 100 times. She hummed a tune that carried across the water despite the proximity to the waterfall and approached the pile of rocks nearest to the door, seeming to arrange it slightly. How old was your mother? Drace asked and slowed his pace. Yeah, mid-40s? Elvon's heart sank a little with each step. The hunched woman with flyaway white hair couldn't be a day under 60, maybe well into her 70s. They waded through the calf-deep water, stopped a few feet from her, and waited for her to finish stacking her rocks. She leaned back with a contented sigh, turning to them with a startled gasp, and narrowed her eyes. Her right eye was milky white, and the other sharp blue. Oh, we didn't mean to startle you, ma'am, Drace said. The old woman stepped nearer to Elvon, straightening to look in his face with her good eye. He reflexively took a step back. I know you, she muttered, pushing into Elvon's face. I know you. I know you. I know you. I know you. She nearly screamed the words and fell into a coughing fit. Drace put a hand on the woman's back and gently patted when she bent forward with her body racking from coughing. He grimaced and shrugged at Elvon. How do you know me? She labored to steady her breathing with a few deep, rasping inhales. She turned toward the door of the hut. Of course it's him, she hissed and paused, as if waiting for a reply. Quiet, don't be silly. Elvon followed her gaze to the pile of stones she'd been arranging, the other party in the conversation. Oh, lovely. We meet another person and she's completely mad. How do you know me, ma'am? He repeated and let his eyes wander into the hut. Dried herbs lined the wall he could see, along with the glint of metal tools. She's crazy, but she knows how to survive here. A breeze through the hut shifted the herbs enough to let the light glance off something golden on a thin chain. Elvon left the woman to chatter at the rocks and stepped towards the wall of herbs, brushing them aside to take the necklace from where it hung on the wall. Dangling from the delicate chain, the flat amulet was engraved with what appeared to be a crude insect with a long body and 4 wings. Elvon stumbled to lean against the dubious door frame and stared at the woman, searching for some hint of recognition. She jabbered at Drace, but half the words seemed aimed at the rocks. Elvon's thumb brushed against the amulet. It wasn't an insect. It was a top-down view of an old ship famed for its speed through the narrow rivers around Spherus. He knew the design. It was on a signet ring he never wore. It was embroidered on most of his formal wear. All the letterhead in his mother's study had and the paper seals for shipments had it as well. The crest of House Galmoth. Mother. I came a bit under. Yeah.
Well done. For those of you who have not heard from Jamie before, he read earlier in the festival. And if you want to hear even more from him, jump over to the Indie Reads Aloud podcast. He's read a bunch on there as well. We had a really good time on the podcast.
Oh, it was a lot of fun.
All righty. Next, we are going to be hearing from Mary Beth McGee, and she's going to be reading from her book, Ambush at the Arboretum. Mary Beth, are you ready?
I am indeed.
Spectacular. When you're all good to go, please take the microphone and read aloud.
Thank you. Magpie, you come back here, I yelled as the black and white mixed breed dog charged across my backyard with one of my favorite leather gardening gloves in her mouth. She paused near the little green storage shed at the rear of the yard and turned to look back at me. Her silken tail tapped a waltz beat on the ground as she sat down. I started towards her, slowly, so slowly, and began to talk to her in cajoling tones. Who's a good doggy, huh, Magpie? Magpie's a good girl, isn't she? That sweet girl is just waiting for me to come and give her a good scratch behind the ears, isn't she? Good girl, Magpie. That's a sweet dog. I was nearly within touching range of her when she bolted again and ran for her preferred hiding place under my back porch. Mercy, are you ready to go? The voice came from my sister, Hope, calling from her back step next door. The workday starts in half an hour and we don't want to be late. Susanna said she'd meet us at the hospitality center. Magpie ran off with my favorite gardening glove. Why don't you go on and I'll meet you there, I answered, keeping my eyes on the spot where Magpie had run under the porch. I can lend you a pair of gloves if you want. Do you prefer cloth or leather? I could hear her footsteps as she came down her back stairs and across the walkway leading to her garage. Most of the time, having my big sister next door is great, but sometimes it's a little too close for comfort. I prefer my own gloves, I replied, and eased my way toward the porch. Go on, I'll just be a few minutes behind you. If I don't get it now, I may not see it again. As I closed in on the porch, I heard sounds overlapping with each other. Hope called out, "Okay, then." A twig snapped beneath my foot. Hope's car door opened, then closed. Magpie whimpered. A baby cried. A baby? There were no babies in my house or yard, nor in Hope's. The house on the other side of mine was vacant. I heard the sound again, a ragged little sob, more of a bleat than anything else. It seemed to come from under the house. Magpie whimpered again. My heavens, a baby crying under my house? Lord, what do I do now? Hope was on her way to the soon-to-be dedicated Phoebe Stockman Memorial Arboretum and Gardens. I would have to figure this out without her help. I couldn't see anything from where I stood. I needed a light. My big emergency flashlight was in the kitchen drawer, so I headed inside for it as quickly as I could. When I came back out, I eased myself down on protesting knees to try to spot the source of the sound, praying for heavenly guidance as I knelt. I swept the powerful beam back and forth. Magpie wasn't in her usual spot under the porch, so I kept swinging the light a little higher with each sweep and looking deeper into the gloom. As the beam illuminated the black and white dog, I saw her tail begin its regular thumping wag. She was standing another 6 feet away, all the way under the kitchen. She dropped the glove she carried and whined again. She stared at me, then looked down at her side. Against my better judgment, I crawled toward her. Crawl with me, Lord, I prayed. Good girl, Magpie. What did you find, huh, girl? Can I see? I kept up the sing-song as I worked my way to her. Her tail moved faster and faster as I got closer. As I reached her, she backed up a few inches, and I could see what she was guarding. A weak cry came from the mass of pale blue cloth before me. The dog whined in response. I reached out to part the fabric and revealed a tiny face, mottled pink and red. There was a baby. I slid one hand under its head, the other under its rear, and lifted it from the hard-packed ground. After one more whimper, the baby stilled. Was it comforted by being held, or too exhausted or sick to cry anymore? I tried not to think of the potential cobwebs in my hair and stains on the knees of my blue jeans as I eased back out from under the house with the precious little bundle settled in one arm and a nervous dog as escort. As soon as we were clear of the structure, I put the baby on the grass and pulled the soiled cloth clear of the infant's little body. Blue eyes blinked at me, or perhaps blinked at the bright morning sunshine. Auburn curls, damp and clinging, framed a plump little face, now becoming pleasantly pink as the mottling caused by crying faded. A tiny hand waved in the air. What a cutie this little one was. If the blue wrappings were any indication, this was a baby boy, but I have a strong streak of skeptic in me, so I pulled up the little kimono to check the diaper. The odor which issued from the garment assured me that the little guy, I had at least confirmed his gender, had been in the same diaper for at least a few hours. How long had he been under my house? Had he gotten there? What on earth should I do with him? After a moment of panic, I settled down to serious thought. Lord guide me, I whispered. I didn't want to disturb Hope while she was driving, but who should I call? Ah, I know. I pulled out my cell phone and called a number I have been glad to have programmed in my contact list on more than one occasion. Cypress Point Police Department, this is Inspector Moore, came the voice after barely one ring. All business and authority as expected. Christine, this is Mercy McKay. I found a baby under my house a minute ago. A baby what? She asked, exhaustion coloring her voice with a cynical undertone. A baby person. I could almost hear her come to attention at her desk at my answer. As in a human baby, she echoed. Yes, and I don't know who to call. What do I do? I tried not to give in to my nervous habit of babbling, but I feared I was failing. Is it alive? And there we go. You'll have to read the rest.
You lit us on a quick. Oh my gosh, thank you so much. That's awesome. Now we all have to go read the book, see what happens.
That's
next.
right.
So Mary Beth McGee, she read from her book, hold it up for us, Ambush at the Arboretum. Can you hold it a little bit closer to the camera so we can all see it really big? Awesome. And Jamie Samlin, can you hold up your book, Arcanum, for us, please? There it is. So check out those books. And as we do every night, at the end of the evening, we'll be giving away an autographed copy of both of those books to a couple lucky winners. So that'll be super fun. All right. Are you guys ready? Are you ready? I mean, seriously, are you ready? Okay, here we go. As we do every night, I'm going to read the recap of our mystery because there are some people joining us for the first time. At the Ghost Bar inside the Whitney Manor and historic Detroit estate, a world-famous psychic medium has come for an exclusive invitation-only seance. With so many curious about spiritualism and the world, around the world, this event promises to connect the living and the spirit worlds, opening doors to mysteries that transcend time and space. But when the seance spirals into a chilling rendezvous with a vengeful spirit and a shocking murder, it falls upon those in attendance to unravel the truths hidden in the darkest depths of the past. Dun, dun, dun. A spirit is summoned, vowing revenge on their killer. One of the guests becomes hysterical, claiming the spirit is there for them. Suddenly, the lights start flickering and the wind pushes the windows open, extinguishing the candles around the room. The room and everyone in it are thrust into darkness. When the light returns, that same hysterical guest is lying on the floor, dead. Dead as a doornail, dead. Who killed them? Why? Was it the furious spirit or something far more earthly? Our cast of characters tonight, and I believe we have a full cast in the room. The medium is played by the great one and only Christopher Gare. The assistant to the great Christopher Gare is the mediocre, Donna Newman. The author is Amy Kelso. The socialite, Don Menge. The spouse of our poorly deceased Richard Whitney is Jules Nelson. The fan of the great Christopher is Marianne Wieland. The aloof guest is Gary Floyd. The maitre d' is Melinda Falgo. And I am your intrepid storyteller. Welcome back to the room, everybody. This is going to be a fun night because last night we got a lot of super fun stuff done and we got to do some new things. I want to put it to the room. Everybody turn your microphones on. I need to put it to the room because I have two very important pieces of information to offer the group tonight. I don't have time to do both. So I want to know from our collection of human beings tonight, what would you prefer? I have a family tree with some family lore to go with it that I found at the Detroit Public Library while doing my research for this story. Or I can share with you and we can discuss the property survey of the Whitney Manor and the neighboring Ainsworth property. So everybody who would like to see the property survey, raise your hand. Everybody who would like to see the family tree and the family lore, raise your hand. Oh my gosh. I think we're split down the middle. This could be a dangerous thing because Diana
Everyone wants to see both.
Okay, so because we have somebody brand new in the room tonight, we're going to let her decide. Catherine Martin, which would you prefer to hear? Would you prefer to hear the story and the family tree, or would you like to see the property survey? You can put it in the chat if you would like to remain mildly anonymous. What would you like, Catherine? No, Mackenzie.
Gary, is Catherine a spirit or a person?
Oh, Catherine is a very wonderful person. I
So-
can vouch for her personally.
All right, so
I was going to ask Donna.
I don't think Catherine wants to take sides. So Mary
I
Beth,
think I was just called mediocre, so I'm not sure if I want to answer.
oh, I've known you long enough, I can do that. So Mary Beth, I'm going to let you decide. Which would you like to hear?
I am curious about the family tree.
Awesome. Okay, here goes, you guys. I'm going to show you the family tree, and I'm going to read you a brief bit of research that I found while researching said family tree. Let me show it to you, and we can discuss it after I give you the story that I found. So while I'm giving you the story, here is the Whitney family tree. 2 generations after the death of David Whitney, the manor, once heralded as a haven of opulence and splendor, now stood as a grotesque monument overshadowed by the vengeful tendrils of the adjacent forest. This forest had, over the years, witnessed atrocities and been a silent repository of the darkest facets of human nature. This forest, now dense and foreboding, veiled the sins of the infamous Whitney family, a lineage steeped in greed and deceit. A dusk settled, painting the sky with hues of melancholy, and the granddaughter of the ill-famed David and Flora Whitney ventured into this suffocating labyrinth of trees and darkness. Bethany Whitney, a fragile beacon of gentleness amidst a lineage tainted with darkness, bore the daunting burden of redeeming her family's tarnished legacy. She was the only heir living in the manor, as her uncle was jailed for embezzlement and was currently serving a sentence of 6 years. Her aunt and her cousins were living at the Evans estate, some 40 miles away in Ann Arbor, until his release. In her 24th year and unwed, Bethany was eager to begin restoring her birthright to its former glory. Little did she know the evil inside the manor had expanded, now infecting the surrounding forest as if seeking justice, reaching for the souls that once marred its tranquility. Bethany, entrapped in the web woven by her forebears, often found herself ensnared amidst the choking vines of the past. This evening, driven by a resolve to quiet the dark secrets of her family's history, she strolled deeper into the woods, armed with nothing but a lantern that flickered ominously in the chilling breeze. As she trod further, the canopy thickened, swallowing the moonlight and enshrouding her in a blanket of impenetrable darkness and eerie silence. The trees seemed to murmur, their leaves whispering tales of betrayal and theft, resonating with the anguish and greed that once pervaded her family home. Amongst these sentient trees, an insidious entity lurked, a malevolent force birthed from the concentrated evil, and suffering that had saturated the soil for generations. It sensed Bethany's presence, a maelstrom of darkness and deceit magnetically drawn to the air of the tainted Whitney family bloodline. The forest came alive, roots reaching, clawing, eager to envelop her in its fold, to exact revenge for the sins of the Whitney family. Bethany, her heart pounding a frenetic rhythm in her chest, felt an icy grip envelop her. An unseen force pulled her toward an ominous, gnarled tree at the heart of the forest. This ancient being, a guardian of the forest, had absorbed the nefarious energies released by the Whitney family over the years, and now was an entity yearning for retribution. Caught in a tug of war between the vengeful forest and her desperate attempts to break free, Bethany's mind raced, flickering images of her ancestors' sinister deeds. The forest sought to absorb her, to fuse her essence with its own, thereby consuming its dark vengeance. Bethany fought valiantly, her spirit flickering like a lone flame amidst a sea of darkness. The forest flooded her vision with images of past anguish, overwhelmed her with the cries of the earth as it absorbed the negative energies and the sobs of the trees as they witnessed countless atrocities. The relentless onslaught weakened her resolve, the boundary between herself and the forest blurring. It was a chaotic merging of darkness and despair. In the final act of defiance, Bethany reached deep within herself, tapping into a wellspring of purity and light that had somehow remained untouched amidst the family's sordid history. As she felt her essence being drained, pulled into the gripping maw of the forest, she released a burst of radiant energy, a sacrifice, an offering of herself to pacify the vengeful spirit of the woods. With a heartbreaking scream that echoed through the forest, a beacon of light in the pervasive darkness, Bethany's physical form disintegrated. Her spirit, merging with the forest, becoming its guardian, purity swirling within a sea of darkness. A tragic yet beautiful union, a melding of innocence with the unholy, and balance was restored. Later, during moonlit nights, people whispered tales of seeing a luminous figure wandering amidst the trees, a beacon of hope and light, safeguarding the forest and ensuring the dark energies remained contained. Bethany Whitney, now a spectral entity, had become the guardian of the forest, a symbol of redemption and sacrifice. At the manor, where the weight of dark history once pressed oppressively on every stone and beam, a gentle, rejuvenating breeze now blew, carrying with it whispers of hope and renewal, a testament to Bethany's sacrifice. As they grew up in the manor, Richard and Amy were told a new legend, a tale of their aunt, their father's sister, who placed redemption of the family above all else. Bethany emerged as a light out of the darkness, a lone figure who had sacrificed herself to heal the wounds of the past and protect the future generations from the evil force that once threatened to engulf the land in darkness. This protection did, however, end at the edges of the Whitney Manor property line, where an old well and a decrepit maintenance shed stand to this day, rotting away slowly. And so, in the moonlit glades of the forest surrounding the Whitney Manor, Bethany's spirit still roams, a beautiful phantom, bathing the neighborhood in a soft, ethereal glow amidst the whispering trees, a gentle reminder that even in the darkest dark, a flicker of purity and light could still prevail and protect the future Whitney bloodline from the evil that consumed the past. Now, if you look at the family tree, you'll notice David Whitney was married on 2 separate occasions to the McLaughlin sisters. First, Flora, whom he and she had Catherine Whitney. Catherine was Bethany's mother. She was unwed and died from a suspicious fall from the 3rd floor balcony the year Bethany came of age. David Whitney's second wife was Flora's sister, Sarah. Together, they had David Whitney Jr. and Catherine Evans. David Whitney Jr. was jailed for embezzlement for 6 years. Robert Whitney and Grace Marshall married, and they had Richard and Amy. So, we have a bunch of new information, some interesting family lore, and I am ready to begin the questions. Amy Kelso, go ahead.
Oh, I just needed to say that all of this information you could have got from reading my books. And that starts in the very beginning, all of this background lore. But I could have told you all about my dear great aunt, or my aunt, I guess, Bethany, who is now protecting the forest, which is why I like to go there all the time to get ideas from my other stories. So,
Oh, of course you did.
it's all there in print, published, of course. You could read it if you had took the time. But
Blah, 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 blah,
and
blah.
it's and the stories are coming out on Amazon Prime shortly, so that'll be fun.
yes.
Mandy Jo, go ahead.
Yes. What happened to Flora McLaughlin? Did she die and how did she die?
Yes, she died in the Whitney Manor. The official cause of death was a heart attack, although some say she died of a broken heart because her daughter Catherine had a child out of wedlock. Anyone
Maybe
else?
She died because her husband was sleeping with her sister.
Well, technically, the marriage to Sarah came after Flora's death, but yeah, we don't know. I mean, we've already discovered that David Whitney was not, the most stalwart of human beings. So I suppose it would be possible.
Oh, bad seeds, the whole lot. Bad seeds, bad seeds. Morons, dirty birds, trollops, the whole works.
The
Just
vocabulary
jealous.
is fantastic.
Just jealous.
Okay.
Of that lot, I don't think so, Miss.
Oh, yes. And Melinda says, don't forget the harpies. Okay. Does anyone else have questions? Really? Did I overload you with information? Can that be possible? Go ahead, Gary.
I have a question for Donna. It seems like seeing that it seems like there's about 1,000 different spirits here, or whatever. Have you ever seen any spirit Richard Whitney?
I don't know if I've seen Richard Whitney's. The only one I can tell you I do for sure know about is you. When I came into the room, if there was no other spirits during the seance except for you. So Richard, I haven't seen Richard. So
So since
he's
his
now dead. So that might be the
So-
reason I haven't seen him yet.
so Richard's death, yeah, I mean he hasn't been dead very long. So you haven't seen his spirit materialize yet?
I have not seen his spirit materialize.
Great,
Yet.
Christopher, have you been in touch with Richard from the other side?
I just keep watching Gary, but Gary's body's like a temple, which explains the line trying to get in.
They're
Nice.
just gonna take a number.
The great one knows all. You should listen.
All
When you
right.
got this much Jiffy Pop on your head, I'm hungry, and yeah, I do know things.
The great one knows.
All right. Does anyone else have any questions? Jules, go ahead.
Just to clarify, you were saying that the well and the old, whatever, the little
The maintenance
clubhouse they
shed.
got there.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's within Bethany's realm of protection, or was it on the other side?
It's on the edge of that protection. Bethany's protection doesn't reach the well or the shed, from what I have learned in digging up family lore from the public library. Gary, go ahead.
And the protection doesn't go down into the well where a bullet goes down.
I would guess probably not.
Not that anyone has shot into the well.
Well, right. I thought it was interesting that the words quieted came up in both Jules's recollection of her direct history and in this new piece of lore that we received tonight about the family tree. So I find it interesting that the adjective quieted is coming up. Wolf, go ahead. No, Wolf's not responding. Amy, can you read that? I just missed it.
Yes, this is Mackenzie. She says, Miss Storyteller, did you dig up the family lore like Miss Kelso dug up the crystal ball, which means you didn't do it because I don't. Anyway, yes.
All of my research comes from tried and true journalistic integrity. I spent hours at the card catalog at the library. I don't even use Google anymore because Google is so unreliable. I go right back to the card catalog and I look for stuff through actual books, microfiche, and records from the city hall. Mandy Jo, go ahead.
So are Robert and Grace, Richard and Amy's parents, still alive?
To the best of my knowledge, yes. I was not able to discover any death certificates for either one of them. Amy, your folks are still alive, right?
They are. They don't really have much of anything to do with the Whitney or honestly with us, but that's a whole nother story. So, but they're
Yeah.
still around. Yeah.
Yeah. And from my research, I have found that it seems that the lore surrounding Bethany going into the forest and merging her energies with the guardian trees seems to be at the same time when all the negative stuff stopped at the Whitney until Richard's death during the seance. So I did find that I didn't find any negative stuff attached to Amy and Richard's parents or their extended family. So just letting you know, from what I've seen, Richard and Amy seem to be on the up and up, but now that Richard's dead, I'm gonna have to do some more research. Mary Beth McGee, go ahead.
I'm just wondering, are you Woodward or Bernstein?
Oh,
Do you
neither.
have a secret partner?
Yeah, no, I'm the only reporter assigned to this. My editor was skeptical about even sending me. He said the great Christopher really isn't worth the column inches, but I knew there was probably a deeper story going on, so that's why
I
I
am
wanted.
worth so many inches.
Walked
That's
into
the
it,
crystal
didn't
balls alone.
I? Jennifer Rains, go ahead.
My question's for Jules. How old are you?
Well, thought I was a young lady, but apparently I was living in denial.
Well, so this is an interesting thing. I've noticed a couple of people in the room over the course of our seance who, because they heard that Jules and Richard were schoolmates, that they must be the same age. Now, Jules is aging exceptionally well. And I did discover by Jules's own admission that she went to Detroit Country Day, which is a K through 12 college prep school. And I could not find any records that said exactly what grades they were both in when they met. And Amy did tell us that Richard is only 2 years older than she is. So if Amy and Jules want to tell you how old they are, that's up to them.
You
I
never
just
ask a
think
woman
there's-
that.
I just think there's a discrepancy between the autopsy suggesting he was 60.
Why is that?
Nora's death.
So why would you think that there's a discrepancy? Because it's only 5 years, from what I understand, between Nora's disappearance and Richard's death. And it's only been 5 years since Julie and Richard were married.
So they
And
got married
Richard
when he
was
was about 55 and Jules was a very mature looking 30.
Sure. Or
Funny grades at school, right?
Or it's quite possible that Jules was in junior high when Richard was in high school. That would only make them 4 or 5 years apart. So
all I know is that she was definitely younger than us because she kept trying to, follow us along, and we didn't want her because she was younger. But I don't know how much younger she was.
Okay. Mandy Jo, go ahead.
Question for Jules. Was there a prenup?
That's good.
Not that I know of.
Yeah.
But now that I know that he married me only for my money and connection, and then he had planned on still spending most of his time with Nora, I should probably make sure that I didn't accidentally sign one, because that would probably make sense. So,
well, and from what you've told us, you guys didn't really talk much.
We talked about the weather, and he would ask me to move my things out of his way. And I mean, we had conversations. They just weren't very
substantive.
Yep.
Sounds like a love story.
Love can be blind, I suppose. Anyone else have any questions? Amy, go ahead.
Okay. So Jules, since you're on the hot seat, I'll keep you there. You told us the other day about how you silenced Nora down in the well.
I quieted her.
You quieted her. I'm sorry,
I quieted
her. Yes. Yes. And then when asked, you said you never told Richard about that. Now, I just want to wrap my head around this. So your dear Richard, who is your love of your life, thought that he had perhaps killed Nora by accidentally pushing her down the well. You helped that process along and then didn't even take the blame for it. So the whole time Richard thought he was guilty, because obviously he was. When the spirit came, he was freaking out about Nora. So you let him feel like he had killed her this whole time, even though it wasn't really his fault. Is that the basis of your relationship? I just want to make sure on that.
He was a schmuck.
If you look at it, he really was guilty, because he ran off to the well and left me alone and was carrying on this relationship with her behind my back. So, I mean, in a way, he was guilty. And he did actually push her down the well. And I don't know that because I borrowed that gun from Melinda's desk. So I don't even know if there was blanks in it. I don't know if there was real bullets in it. So, I mean, I actually don't even know what's in there. So when I silenced her, she just stopped talking to me. So, I mean, I don't actually know anything else. So I'm not going to take blame for something when he was obviously the guilty one in the first place. So
Christopher, go ahead.
Okay, quick draw. Sorry, Melinda. Where'd you get the gun?
Yeah.
You got
microphone,
you're
Melinda.
muted.
Microphone, Melinda, microphone.
Sorry. So it is Detroit. you know.
Because that's not a
what she always
stereotype.
says.
So, of course, I had to keep some form of security on the premises. It is under lock and key. I am not used to people going around my things and rifling through them, but it is a firearm. It is loaded. So, of course, I had to take certain precautions. So the drawer was locked. I'm not really sure how Jules gained access to it.
I just opened that drawer and pulled it out.
So you found the drawer unlocked?
Yep.
Curiouser and curiouser. And Melinda, you swear you locked it when last you were at your desk?
Absolutely. I keep the key on a chain around my neck at all times. Most of the time.
Oops. Gary Floyd, go ahead.
So this is for Jules. So Richard made you shoot me.
Well, not technically. I was doing it for him because I thought that he could have a better life if he wasn't so divided.
Yeah, it is tough for men to focus sometimes. All right. Anyone else have questions?
Marianne.
Marianne, go ahead.
Jules, you have said many times that you don't believe any of this. It's all hokum and malarkey to you. Yet you and Richard came to the seance. Were you hoping that possibly something the Great One might find to expose Richard for his pushing of Nora in the well?
No, honestly, the only reason why we're there is because the compensation that the manor got for holding the seance was kind of contingent that we actually were there. So I can't tell you a single word that the great Christopher said because I was actually thinking about something completely different. And I only actually opened my eyes when I realized the lights went out because I was not expecting that. So.
Well, then you had a gun that you got apparently from having been locked up. Were you going to the well to possibly shoot my sister or perhaps shoot Richard? Was that in your mind?
Richard was already back at the house crying like a baby to Melinda. So, but the drawer wasn't locked. And I just thought.
You didn't really think much of your husband now, did you?
I loved him. But he should have been stronger willed than that.
All right, we have time for two last questions. Wolf, go ahead.
Yeah, Diana, for clarification. So the blood spatter was on the ceiling above you, and the wound was on your side, sitting next to Richard. I cannot believe that you got none of the blood splatter other than on your foot.
So if you remember from the autopsy report that we received, the preliminary autopsy report, cause of death was blunt force trauma to the carotid artery, and secondary was a collision with secondary skull fracture resulting from collision with the wood floor. I did see spatters of blood on the ceiling directly above him. Whether that's his blood or somebody else's, I haven't done a forensic analysis, so I don't know. Christopher, go ahead.
Question is for Annie Oakley. Sorry, Melinda. Were you having an affair with Richard?
Oh, no. The Brazilian maid. All mine.
A Brazilian is a lot of people.
The big country.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thus ends our interrogation session for tonight, and a wonderful way to end it too, I might add. Thank you all for your deep dive questions. We will be back again tomorrow to discover more and maybe come closer to solving this thing. We have 10 days until the big reveal. We're getting close. Who did it? Come back tomorrow, ask questions, collect clues, sling your accusation at the end of the month to win prizes. Remember, you can very succinctly scrutinize all of the replays on our YouTube channel. The links are on Facebook and on the website. Somebody says they have nothing to say about that. Yeah, they could be lying. Wax drippings, here it is, you guys. Time again to figure out who's getting closer to winning those 5 medals. There it is, today's standings. Christopher Gere, Amy Kelso, Andrew Allen Smith, Deborah Reed, and Jules Nelson are in the top 5. For those of you who are not in the top 5, you'd like to see where you are? You are. This is where everybody sits for the rest of you. The not top 5, as we like to say in the world. Okay. Talismans from the spirits. It's that time again, folks. Time to give stuff away. If your name comes up on the spinning wheel of happiness tonight, please, pretty please, send me an email with your mailing address to diana@pagespromotions.com so that the authors can get the book shipped out to you. Remember, even if you think you sent me your address already, I've checked it off my to-do list, which means if it's not there, I don't know, I have to do it again. So make sure you send me those addresses, even if you think I already have them. We are going to give away Jamie's book first. Jamie, will you hold up your copy of Arcanum again? Pretty please. All right. And Mary Beth McGee, will you please, pretty please, hold up your book, Ambush at the Arboretum. Look at that. She disappeared. There. Virtual backgrounds are fun, aren't they, guys? Okay, so I am gonna share the spinning wheel. Amy, will you let me know when you can see it, pretty please? Awesome. Okay, and I'm hoping the sound works. We never know. All right, Jamie's book first. Here we go. Congratulations. Don't forget, send me your address. I know you've already sent it to me like 3 times. Congratulations, by the way, on winning books. That's a cool thing. Okay.
Actually, Diana, Donna won the other one, so I have her address already. So you're just getting my whole library, Donna.
Good.
Sorry, the whole catalog, just ship it out in one big box.
Just ship it all at once.
All right.
All right, here we go. Mary Beth McGee's book, Ambush at the Arboretum. Here we go. Seeing Mary Smith in the room. Is she not here? She is not here. Okay, so we're gonna spin that wheel one more time. Because it's hard to win books when you're not present. That's a tough trick to pull off. Although, you know, Nora might be able to do it. I don't know. Okay, here we go one more time. You know what? Just so that I can make sure, Mary Beth, that you don't win your own book. Okay, let's go. Congratulations, everybody. Yes, Jules?
I won that book last year. I could show it to you. It's right here next to me. If you want to spin it again and let somebody else have a chance.
You're awesome. You're amazing. I would like you to look at my catalog and send me an email and let me know which one you would like me to send you.
Okay.
Okay. I will send you one of mine. Okay, let's pull up the spinning wheel one more time. Here we go. Putting stuff away is so much fun. Oh my gosh. Deb McPeak, you want another book? I think this is like Your second.
Yay!
Is this your second or your third win? Do you remember?
I don't know, but I got the one from Deb Reed Saturday.
We love it. Getting mail is so much fun. Okay.
Check it for a white poison powder.
Was that what that was?
You know, Christopher, I'm going to read your obit and I'm not going to be surprised. All right, everybody, we are 10 days away from the big reveal. Who did it? Can you guys figure it out? If you can't, come to the big reveal. If you can, come to the big reveal anyway, because you might win prizes. We're giving away stuff I haven't even announced yet. We're having a spectacular hat contest as well. So find a spectacular hat. You might win a prize for your dashing chapeau. All right, here we go. We are running really close to an hour, so we're going to do shots across the bow tonight. Donna Newman, shots across the bow.
I really think the maid did it.
Do we even know who the maid is?
Andy Joe.
Mackenzie.
Mackenzie.
Okay. Yeah. Amy, can you read that?
Yes. Okay, so Mackenzie said, Mr. Gare's headstone is going to end up saying, Deborah did it.
You know, I would be offended if this wasn't probably true.
Okay, shots across the bow, Gary Floyd.
I just want to tell Jules that I'm in no relation at all to any of the Whitneys. If she goes to finish them off, I don't want to be one of them.
Wow, aren't you already dead? That would be a neat trick to pull that off twice. Melinda Falco, shots across the bow.
Marianne, you'll be happy to know we're having pizza delivered tomorrow night.
Oh, thank you. I won't call you a harpy for that.
Nice of you to think of your guests,
I'll
Melinda.
wait till I eat it. Maybe with some of the great ones, wonderful personal wine, Boone's Farm.
Jules Nelson, shots across the bow.
I just want you guys to know the other day when I had stepped into the butler's pantry for, a couple days to get away from Marianne. I found a copy of Amy's book in there. She jotting notes and stuff. And I'm not sure anybody should read it. It goes on and on about this little kid who she thinks is terrible that follows him around and stuff. And it's not very complimentary. So I wouldn't buy the book or the movie when it comes out. Just wanted you guys to know.
Don Menge, shots across the bow.
It's a room full of haters.
Yeah, just be glad you weren't on the hot seat tonight.
Hey, I'm the innocent one here, and I'm so glad that Marianne really talked about how the family, oh my gosh, I am so shocked. But I'm even wondering who the maid is.
Yeah, I think we all are. Marianne, shots across the bow.
Well, I think it's a room full of lunatics, except for the great one. And Troy. Troy is the only sane one in the room.
Oh, thank you.
Notice she didn't name herself in that list.
She's going to latch on to you next.
I can write my own story. It's okay. Amy Kelso, go ahead.
I just have to point out that obviously there's no justice in the world when we know what Jules did, not only to Nora, but what she put Richard through, and yet she still wins a book today. Just isn't fair. Just not fair at all.
Yeah, I'm waiting for what the police say when they come back. Christopher Gare, shots across the bow, sir.
Still think if we identify who created the seating chart, we will answer a lot of questions.
Isn't that the way it always is?
When you write it, yes.
I just want to say thank you all so much. I appreciate our authors tonight for reading, Jamie and Mary Beth. It's always a pleasure to have you guys share your stories. Thank you, everybody, for your lively, fun, and engaging conversations. And I hope you will all come back tomorrow. And maybe tomorrow we'll have time to look at that property survey. Have a great night, everybody.
Bye.